That's what you do, you serve. And then a lot of us have, our dreams of what we want to be. I thought about my dream as, what I wanted to be. I thought I would be a professional dancer. I'd be living in New York, doing that dance thing. Alvin Ailey, the dance company. But God had something different for me. I went to college. I met my sweetheart. We got married. I started a life. I have kids. My purpose was to be a mother. My purpose was to be a wife. I thought my purpose was to be a dancer in New York. And He changed my purpose. My purpose is now to be here speaking to you all about being a pretty girl for Christ. Not just pretty girl because you're cute, but a pretty girl for Christ. And those dreams that you guys have is kind of like a glimpse into your destiny. I'm still dancing. I just might not be dancing in New York. I'm still dancing. I just might not be on the stage. I'm on Christ's stage, dance. So I still, it was a glimpse of I knew I wanted to dance. I just didn't know the capacity, or my capacity of what I thought my dance would be, was different from God's capacity. And then once you have your purpose, you have your DNA, you have your prayer life established, you're helping and everything, then you have to trust the plan. And it's not easy to trust the plan. Think about Noah. Can you imagine? It's summertime in Atlanta, July, where y'all don't get a lot of water, and you go outside and start building a boat. What's your friends gonna say about you? Like, what is wrong? You just out there building. And they're like, it ain't rained in 20 days. Why are you out here building this boat? You just keep building. That's knowing your purpose when everybody else don't know your purpose. That's knowing what God's plan for you is when everybody else don't know what His plan is for you. And they're going to be talking about you. That girl is crazy. So I'll get out there building a boat. Did y'all know the last time it rained? And you just still building. And then what else? When they see you going and getting animals 2 by 2. Why is she putting them lizards on the boat? I mean, can you really imagine what they were talking about? No, I'm serious. Like, this dude is crazy. And he's still doing what God called him to do, because what God sees your beginning, middle, and your end. A lot of them people, when it starts raining, they're in that little bitty boat. Noah, let us in. Can't get in. Please, we gonna drown. So sorry for you, but He told me to just do what I did with the people who are on here and all the animals. Because God knows your beginning, your middle, and your end. He knows your purpose before even you know it. Noah said God told him a flood was going to come, but he really didn't know, what that meant. He didn't know that, okay, it's going to cover the whole earth. I'm going to be stuck on here with these people and these animals for this long amount of time. People going to start getting on my nerves. Can you imagine being stuck on a boat with nowhere else to go? With the people that be getting on your nerves. With animals, do you know how that smell was up in there? And they didn't even have toilets and nothing. I wouldn't be able to do it. But because God knew His purpose, so Noah, his family, those animals on the boat, they all survived. Nobody else survives that. But they did what God called them to do, and they all survived. And they started anew once that boat docked on the mountain. They got out, started living their life again. And every time when you have your purpose, when you know what God's called you to do, it might not be fitting in. Y'all know the easiest thing to do is to fit in? Very easy. Do what everybody else is doing. That's easy. Because everybody else is doing it. That's the easiest way out. But when you choose in the opposite direction, or when you choosing different from everybody else, that's the hardest thing to do, is to be different. I remember when I started college, I had a suite mate and some other friends that I met there. And we met this group of guys. And this group of guys, very handsome. Yes. And we're like, oh, they so cool. They didn't go to our school. They would kind of come up for parties and stuff. And so started to befriend them. Well, they were into this religion that I had never heard of in my life. And so I'm thinking, okay. And like, well, first of all, if you're not dark-skinned, then you're not going to be able to be in heaven as part of the heavenly court.
Oh, no. Oh.
I'm like, what? You got to be dark-skinned because you have to be from the motherland. And if you have any light skin in you, that tells you that you ain't going to get to be there. Now, these are black people now. But they have made this, and I'm thinking, so you saying I ain't going to be in the heaven? You know what? Yeah, you're not going to be there. Well, you get to be there, but you're going to be like a slave. You're not going to be in the heavenly court. So I'm like, okay, I'm not liking that at all. And then they had other little things that they said. So one of my friends was really liking one of the guys. And I could have went in that direction with them. But because nothing's more important to me than my salvation, I was like, I'm not going down that road. So I pulled that group of guys together along with my friends, and we met with my pastor, who was my uncle at that time. And it was very hard to do that, to be different, because they were like, Misha, he cute. You should just come on with us. You know, what's the problem? I'm like, no, he cute. But no, I can't go that direction because I knew that was against my beliefs. And second of all, I'm light skinned. I ain't trying to be in heaven, you know, with the people in the court. But you'll be surprised, you know, people with different religions, when you go off to college, it's kids that come from all over the place in different places, and they have different ways of thinking. But you have to be grounded in what you know and what your beliefs are before you get there, so you won't be caught up in all that goes on around them. And it's like, you know, sometimes you think about, you know, how can I have purpose? I'm only 15, 16, 17. But when you look at the Bible, you think about those individuals that have things they need to do. And this is another way of looking at you being different from just having the singing and the dancing talent that we normally see on TV. When David was called into his purpose, the first thing he had to do was what? What was David's first task before he became king? He killed the giant. He had to kill a giant. Now, if you go, like people say, don't come into a knife fight and bring a pencil. So, you have a giant. David was not the cutest of his brothers. He was the youngest of the brothers. He wasn't the brother that the father thought would be the king. So when Saul came to do the anointing of the king, they didn't even consider David as being one of the people that could possibly be king. Like, he ain't cute. He just work out there at the thing. What about these? This is my good son. Look how strong and handsome and amazing these are. So David's back while all of his brothers are out fighting. And he hear, oh, it's a giant, and everybody's scared, and they trying to retreat and change their mind about this war. And he's like, no, we're supposed to win this. So let me go out. And what does he grab to take with him?
Stone.
A stone. So again, what did I tell you before? God can use the smallest to the largest thing. So never feel that you're too small for God to use you. The smallest thing, he picked up a stone to go fight somebody that is 9 feet tall. Now y'all seen the NBA players, right? Mm-hmm. That's like maybe 7 foot. Shaq is 7 foot. 9 feet. A stone. I'm just going to throw a stone at him. What? Again, God uses the most different things because God has to get the glory in everything that you do. So you don't necessarily have to look like you the person to be chose. You don't have to come with the equipment that people think you need to have to do what he called you to do. All you have to do is come with the heart the mind, and the alignment. God told me to get this stone and to go and throw it at a 9-foot giant. What happened to the giant?
Boom.
Did he get back up? So when God's fighting your battles, there's nothing anybody can do to not let you win. Nothing. Even when it looks like you may be losing, you can still walk away like, I got this one. Because there is no, when God goes before you, nobody can be against you. Like when the children marched around the walls of Jericho to bring those walls down. They marching and singing. People are like, what are they doing? Marching and singing, marching and singing. What is that going to do? What happened to those walls? Came down. When God's before you, nobody can be against you. When God's disciples was in the prison singing, what happened to the jail? Shook, unlocked, and the doors opened. When the boys, the 3 boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was in the fire, the hottest fire, the king told them to put more in there to make the fire hot. You know, the fire was so hot. The person that was putting the more wood and stuff in the fire to make it hot, you know, he burned up. So when they put the boys in there, what the boys in there doing? Hey. The king looked in there and said, I know I put 3 people in there, but there's a 4th one in there. When God's before you, nothing and nobody can be against you. Nothing. It may even look like, because with the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when the king said, okay, at 12 o'clock, I need everybody to fall down and y'all need to worship my God. And y'all know in the end days, that's how it's going to be, right? It's going to be like that. Y'all going to have to make a choice if y'all still around. 12 o'clock, everybody need to stop, worship my God. You need to worship this statue right here. Gold, beautiful. You need to stop. You need to do this. These 3 boys say, remember what I told you, it's easy to do what everybody else is doing. Very easy. They could have jumped down, worship, just like everybody else. But they're like, no, that's not my God. That ain't who brought me out of Israel. I'm not going to worship. So then the guards was like, hey, there's these 3 boys. They don't want to do it. Something wrong with them. They don't want to do it. Bring them to me. I would need you to drop down and worship my God. To the king, they said, no, we're not going to do it. And you know what they said? This is the important part. He said, I'm going to throw you into this furnace. And he said, we know my God can save me. But even if he don't, I'm not going to worship your God. Can you imagine being a boy and saying, even if he don't? That's the key. Even if he don't, we know he can. But even if he decides he's not, I'm not going to worship your God. And even Jesus, I mean, they were young, but even Jesus, when he went into the synagogue, I think he was only like 9 years old. And he goes in, and the priests, old, you know, like, what is this little dude doing in here? He got more power than the rest of us. Because it doesn't matter what your age is, it doesn't matter how big you are, it doesn't matter how small you are. God will use anybody willing to be a vessel. And then, like, the last thing I want to talk about, even on this path, you have things that happen, and you're not always going to make the right decisions. You're not always going to do the right thing. Because again, even though you're a spiritual being, this is natural. It's natural. It's life. It's what we call life. So you're going to have things that come into your life that you might not make the best decision.